Welcome to the Connected Campus podcast, where we explore the ways that diverse professionals are working every day to optimize their efforts to recruit, retain, and graduate their students.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special episode of the Connected Campus podcast, this rebroadcast episode with our senior sales engineer, Julie Gumerman, in conversation with Archange Umugabe, Salesforce Administrator at Davis College. So really cool, interesting conversation. She brings her international perspective working in Kenya at Davis College and her story of kind of finding her career and why kind of the work that she does implementing and utilizing technologies to create kind of digital experiences for students is so important, and why kind of access is so powerful to technology for students. So please do enjoy this conversation, this episode number 10, rebroadcast episode with Archange Umugabe.
I'm currently working at Davis College as Salesforce Administrator. So if I may talk about a little bit of my background, I graduated in Davis College, still I'm Davis College alumni, and I did information systems there. And at the time of looking for an internship, I was already volunteering with the Salesforce Administrator, or the person who was the Salesforce Administrator at that time. And it was interesting enough that I really asked to do with him an internship. And before I knew it, I started handling bigger tasks and great requirements from different departments. And I found myself as a junior Salesforce Administrator. Yeah, so Salesforce is our database, and my work revolves around Salesforce, around data maintenance, handling reports and providing reports for different departments for decision making, and handling integrations between Salesforce and other systems like Canvas or Qualtrics that we use for our applications. Yeah. So, and I'm currently working on a journey of becoming certified an administrator, a certified administrator, and a certified developer in Salesforce. Yeah.
That's awesome. I know so many people who had started off in other fields and then moved over into ed tech, but it looks like you've been in tech the whole time. What made you go into technology to begin with?
Thank you very much. So I can say that I still have many years ahead of me. So I am literally starting my career. So this is where I started, and my education background is in tech. I did computer electronics in high school. We call it secondary school here. So I was curious. I looked at computers. It's not common here that we get familiar with computers at an early age. So I was curious. I was seeing that device. What does it do? How can I interact with it? How can I make good use of it? You know, I was so curious that I went to study it in high school, and yeah, I ever fell in love with it and started really wondering, how can I learn more about it? How can I start coding, writing codes to provide technical solutions to real life problems? Yeah, so curiosity got me there. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm still exploring and learning much. Thank you.
I have so many questions for you. It's so fascinating hearing about people's technical journeys and where their interests lie. Have you always been interested in ed tech, or was it more that you were fascinated by technology and passionate about it, and then ed tech happened to be where you land? How did that progression go?
So I have a feeling that probably every little child feels like they will be a doctor at some point. Yeah, so I had such dreams. You know, you would ask me, what do you aspire to become? I was like, I'll be a doctor, but you know, I haven't really thought about it that much. Yeah, so I guess I always had interest in psychology, though. I really wanted to understand you know, why people react in certain ways, why do people think in certain ways, why do people do certain things. But the love for technology was bigger than psychology. Well, I feel like at some point I'll still have to dive into it, or even look at how we can use technology to better help people with different issues. You know, use technology to assist psychologically, people who are struggling in different areas, mentally, or really not having a fun time. Yeah, but love for technology is bigger than that. And if I was interested in another thing, I would look for ways to combine the both of them to serve better or to make it even more fascinating. Yeah.
Definitely. That makes sense. I actually have a master's in curriculum and instruction. I taught school for many years before going into tech. And so again, those journeys of how people end up where they are is fascinating to me, because I feel like that master's comes more into play as I'm talking to, say, potential customers about how to use the platform for student engagement as opposed to the tech itself. Whereas now I do work as a developer. It's all very interesting. How have you seen technology change in your time in tech? You talked about first handling computers in school, and now you're managing a CRM. Can you talk to me a little bit about how things have changed and how your exposure to tech changed over the years?
It's not really, isn't a big change, as in a very big change here, but I can say that with COVID breaking, we had no other choice but thinking of solutions or how we can bring things online and how we can use technical solutions to get our life going. Speaking from personal experience, I am grateful for Davis College because it really is doing a great job in terms of introducing technology to students and empowering students with the ability to interact with technology, to use technology throughout their education. About 2 years ago, when I started, they provide devices. We were given Kindles to use throughout our education at Aquila. Yeah, it now even got better that now new students are being given computers that they're able to pay throughout their 2 years at Aquila. It's not an opportunity for everyone here. I can confirm that. So it's a big opportunity that I got from Davis College. And on top of giving us devices that help us throughout our education, we did a bridge program that introduced us to basic technology, using emails. Yeah, it might sound funny, but we do not really get to be familiar with using emails, using even Google products to connect with each other, to interact with each other. Yeah, so through that bridge, we get introduced to technology, how we can use it to interact with each other, how we can use it to properly research, how we can make sure we are secured online. Yeah, so I saw that change first when I got at Davis College, and wow, I was like, how come I didn't know that we can use all of these things? And it really made our lives easier. So there is a big change comparing other universities or other colleges, because not every other colleges have such an opportunity of getting introduced to technology, devices, having internet, being literate about internet. Yeah, so I see a big change since COVID outbreak, because it kind of, we didn't have other choices but try our best and push ourselves to put everything online to kind of survive, if I can call it. Yeah, so it's getting better. It's almost 2 years now. It's getting better, and I'm really happy that I see universities and colleges launching systems that help students interact, read their academic materials and ask the instructors, ask their teachers about certain points. Yeah, and I'm really hoping that this is a change for better, I really hope that it is opening the government's eyes, or even the institution owners' eyes, to see how technology can really help in such a big way.
That is awesome and fascinating. Yeah, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I remember when my family got its first computer, and I believe it was 1994, and I was in 5th grade, and I just wanted to go exploring all over the place because it was a fascinating new toy. And then I taught middle
Okay.
school for a number of years. And it was really interesting just watching these kids who'd grown up as digital natives and they didn't know how to type. I remember learning how to type when I was in third grade. My mom had a typewriter and I was bored one summer and she was like, well, you're bored, here's a book, learn how to type, as opposed to my students who grew up on cell phones. And so they'd always type on the computer with their thumbs. And it was just fascinating because it was so different from my own experience. And I noticed that in the States, at least in K through 12, there's kind of this give and take in terms of we want people to use technology. Technology is the way of the future, but at the same time, there's almost this fear of like, how much technology? Are we relying too much upon technology? But yeah, in the age of COVID, I don't know how education could possibly happen without ed tech, just because there's so many tools and you don't have teachers in the classroom with students. You need that technological piece in order to teach students and also to allow those students to engage. How have you been seeing that at Davis through the course of the pandemic in terms of student engagement and whatnot, and technology and how it enables that to happen?
Even before COVID, I can say at Davis College, we were in a better hands, I can say, because we really started using technology like before most of other colleges or institutions here in Rwanda. So we were kind of used to using technology solutions to handle education purposes, you know. We were already using Canvas and we were using Sycamore at a time, and Salesforce, of course, was in place. Yeah, so we really got familiar with the technology solutions. And what happened when COVID came is that we were not going into classes anymore, but we were still using the same technology that we had, yeah, before COVID. Yeah, and of course, I can agree that yes, it increased, because if a student knew that they'll be in class somehow and they kind of relied on the notes that they'll be taking in class probably, but being at home pushed them to check the systems and become interactive online, because they wouldn't go in class and ask their colleagues or their teachers, how are we supposed to go about a certain assignment or an exam or a quiz. Yeah, so it pushed them to learn more and explore more the systems that we were already using.
That is interesting. I'm thinking back to my time as a college student and how I was so involved in extracurriculars as well as in the classroom. And it seemed like those pieces of just being engaged with the world around you and how those extracurricular pieces can tie in with what you're learning in class really made college incredibly valuable to me, not just in terms of traditional coursework, but just as a global human being, understanding how things work. Would you be able to talk a little bit more about groups and how students were actually able to interact?
So that's my favorite thing. You know why? Because really allowed us to have like a virtual institution, if I may call it that way. Yeah. So it's like taking the whole institutions, you know, we know classes, it's composed by a number of people or staff members or faculty members or a certain club. Students do not have to wait for being physically together with other students in the same class to ask a certain concern concerning a course, because there are groups, they know they'll post it and people can comment, can reply, can like, you know, a student can share materials, they can raise their concerns or even reach out to their instructor or even another staff member to ask about a certain issue. Or even to make it better, even staff members do not need to wait for students to come on campus to tell them, you know what, you have to fill these forms, you have to do this and that, you have to validate that because we need some information for something or some decisions, you know. They just had to post it, and yeah, students became aware of what they needed to do for certain things, and it really made life easier. And let's be honest, you know, not all course materials can be covered in class or even in class hours. So it is interesting that even reading, like in my own time, reading, revising, I encounter something interesting and I'm like, hey, did you know this and that? It became easier to engage students both in extracurricular activities because they can make groups, however they like, and different groups through pods. So it made life a lot easier. And as I started saying, it was like building a virtual institution. Yeah. So I don't know what other technical solution we could have used. It was the best to really serve the need to engage everyone at campus.
That is awesome. One of the things that I thought about as you were talking is also there are so many students who might not be comfortable speaking out in class. Like there are definitely some who kind of rule the roost. And I've always been that sort of person of, I have questions, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to comment. But a lot of people just don't have that comfort. And it seems like it might also be helpful to have that solution in place, even in non-pandemic times, so that those quieter people can actually engage and discuss, because it seems like there's so many things related to what goes on in class and how it relates to life outside of class that can be discussed. And if it's just a lecture format or it's only 3 hours a week in a classroom, like how can you truly understand that content? Whereas groups and being able to discuss online allows for that continual discussion and that thought process and the growth and the ability to see not only the content, but how others interact with it.
I agree with you. And looking at a class as a formal format, kind of, feeling like at a certain hour you have to be in class talking about a certain subject, you feel like, oh, sometimes it gets boring. But having paths that you can have access to anytime at any hour, even the subjects or the courses that you are doing can easily be relatable in real life, because you do not need to wait for class hours when you are even tired from walking or commuting to to your college. Yeah, so being seated somewhere in nature, probably looking around and feel like I can talk about the class materials, like it brings kind of sense of making it easy for you and digesting it and relating it to real life. And that tension of being in class, of wanting to answer or communicate in a certain way is not necessarily there. Yeah, so
definitely. That is good stuff. Where do you envision EdTech going in the future? What are some things that you would love to see either in the portal or with EdTech in general?
I already like that we can kind of integrate with other systems, because for example, we are currently using Canvas for academic materials, where students can go and look at the courses materials, quizzes, assignments, and exams. So I already like the fact that we can integrate with other systems. So I would like to see that evolve, having path where a student can easily do not necessarily have to go through or to navigate through different systems, but probably with one they can reach or access other things easily. Yeah, so I think that would be interesting to see. And probably generally speaking, another thing that I would really wish to see, I am speaking as I'm based in Rwanda, I would like really to see students or Rwandans get exposed to technology at an early age, if I may, where they are able to interact with devices, with internet, and they become fluent in internet literacy, where they can start thinking critically and in a more advanced way to see how they can use technology at their advantage. Yeah, I really wish that we can get more Rwandans exposed to technology and technology solutions at an early age and start interacting with them and get their minds to work and see how they can improve it to better solve our community problems.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today about your background and about educational technology and where it's going. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure, really.
Thanks for listening to the Connected Campus. Please leave a 5-star review for the show and share it so others can discover us. Make sure to also subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Connected Campus.